G'day folks. Picture this scenario. You're driving along in the remote outback. You may be by yourself, but you are in complete isolation from the outside world. There's no mobile phone reception and something happens to your vehicle. You might swerve to miss an animal and the vehicle rolls. Your vehicle might catch fire or anything could happen and your vehicle is essentially rendered useless. Now, if you're like me and with my previous four-wheel drive, the FJ Cruiser, everything is built into the vehicle. I'm talking about water tanks, I'm talking about rooftop tent or roof conversion, I'm talking about cooking facilities. Everything is built into the vehicle. So if the vehicle is now suddenly on its side or upside down or burnt to a crisp and you need to jump out of the vehicle, what happens then? You are in a very harsh environment, you are isolated. How do you survive? This video is all about what you need to carry with you in order to survive in such a situation until help arrives. So, what's in this bag? Well, the contents of this bag is something that I think every person who travels to remote areas in a four-wheel drive should have all the time. The purpose of this bag is if something happens to your car, it could catch fire, it could roll, the engine could seize up, anything could happen, the car could end up on its side. You want to be able to bail out of the vehicle, grab something so that you are not stranded by the side of the road and be able to survive in safety for, let's just say 2 days until help arrives. Okay, so before I open the bag, you will notice that this is not a backpack. It's not a backpack on purpose because you don't want to be tempted to wander away from your vehicle. Now, the number one thing that a lot of people do wrong is they start wandering away from their vehicle. They think, oh, we'll go and find water somewhere, or we'll try and walk to the nearest town, and they get lost. You are much more difficult to locate from a helicopter on foot than if you stay with your vehicle. So always stay with your vehicle. So the whole point of this, you grab it, you jump out of the vehicle, and inside here you've got everything that you need to survive. So let's have a look at what I put in here. I actually don't remember. Let's have a look. All right, so where do I start? The number one thing is communications. This is an EPIRB, and an EPIRB is an electronic position indicating radio beacon. Now, this is one of these things, and this will send a distress signal to satellites, and it will be answered by people who monitor these things, and they will send helicopters and everything to come and find you. So this is always in my grab bag. And if I'm going on a bushwalk, let's just say I've stopped somewhere and I want to see a waterfall or whatever, and it says 2 kilometre bushwalk, well, I'll reach into my grab bag, grab this, put it in my backpack, take it with me, but when I get back to the car, this goes straight back into the grab bag, so it is here all the time. So an EPIRB is super important. Now, a week ago, my partner and I, Susie, we did a first aid course, and it is very well worth it. And the number one thing that you need to do after assessing the danger and finding someone who is in need of help is you need to send a signal to get help. You need to call an ambulance or a paramedic, or call the rescue people with one of these, but you need some way of communicating to the world that you need help. And if you're in the outback where there's no mobile phone signal, this is the best way to do it. So an EPIRB, just get this to roll down the hill, an EPIRB is super important. Now, when you're stranded, it's going to take anywhere up to 1 to 2 days or so for help to arrive if you're in a remote area. So the first thing that you need to do is, once you've signaled for help, is to find some sort of shelter. Now, depending on where you are, there might not be much available. If you could be in the middle of the desert, there might be no caves, no trees, no anything. So this here is an emergency two-person tent. And this is basically what they call a tube tent. So it's a triangle, long elongated triangle, open at both ends. You could close both ends down if you want to, and you can you can fashion a makeshift some poles out of sticks, or just get a rope and tie it between two trees through the roof of this thing and have somewhere you can crawl inside. You can close down both ends if you want to, or close down one end, leave the other end open, but it will give you shelter. Now, shelter is super important. It could be shelter from the sun, shelter from the rain, shelter from animals, etc. Very important. The tent itself is the same color as the bag. It's fluorescent orange, so it is highly visible. It also doubles as an emergency signal, so you should be able to see this from the air. So that's your shelter. Now, what else do I have in here? I have in this bag here all sorts of things. I have a water purification kit. Now, the water purification kit is essentially 2 bags. You can scoop up some water and then you can pass it through this filter here from one bag to the other, and it's got, I think it's a carbon filter in there, and it basically filters out all the sediment in the water, makes it safe to drink. It's like those life straw systems that you may have heard of. So that is very important. I have some lint here for lighting fire with. That helps. I have a lighter to light said fire, and I have 2 pieces of cutlery. These are lightweight forks and spoons in one, and I have a bar of soap, because if you're going to eat, or if your car rolls and you're a bloody mess, well, it would be nice to have some way of cleaning yourself up. So soap is important to have, I think. You can use it to clean a wound, you can do all sorts of things with it. So that's water purification. And now, while we're on the topic of water, this is an interesting one. This is a new addition that I'm adding into my grab bag, and this is called Mineral Plus. It's basically a powder, and you can probably put this into a container that is a lot smaller, because you only need a tiny little amount to sprinkle in the water. Now, what Mineral Plus does is it puts back the minerals into water that is stripped out when you're filtering water through carbon filters, etc. And that is really important, because if you're in a hot environment, you're sweating a lot, you're losing water, and if you are drinking filtered water, it's not really hydrating you properly. You need electrolytes, and that water doesn't have any electrolytes, so it doesn't have any minerals, and you could then be drinking and drinking and drinking, and it is still not quenching your thirst. If I remember many years ago, I was out at Lake Eyre in the middle of the desert. It was a 45-degree day, really hot in the middle of summer. I was out on the salt and for about an hour and a half, and when I got back to the car, I was so thirsty, and I was drinking and drinking, and no amount of water that I drank could quench my thirst. Just standing out on the surface of Lake Eyre for about an hour, I am so thirsty. And I've been drinking water, but no amount of water can quench my thirst. I just feel so dehydrated and so full of salt. Luckily I have plenty of water, but so thirsty. Well, I didn't know about Mineral Plus back then, but yeah, this is what would have been very useful to me back then. You sprinkle a bit in the water. This is made from seawater, and it's an electrolyte mix, and yeah, it works really well. It helps replenish the minerals back into your body and stop you from getting dehydrated. So that is a new addition to my grab bag. I have here some freeze-dried meals. Now, these are by Backcountry, and this one's cottage pie. They're both cottage pie. And the good thing about these things is all you do is boil some water, and you pour the water in the bag, seal it up, let it sit there for 10 minutes or whatever it says on the back, and you've got yourself a nice meal. It's not my meal of choice, but when you are stranded, these are fantastic to have, and they last years without going off. So it is a very, very handy thing to have. Now, moving on. Of course, I've got some first aid supplies here. Here is a basic first aid kit that I've put together from several other types of first aid kits. It's got everything that you would expect: bandages and scissors and antiseptics and wound dressings and all sorts of things in here. I've just made it fit into this really slimline bag so it takes up less space. So a first aid kit is very, very important, as is a snake bite bandage. Now these are compression bandages and these are essential for snake bite wounds. In fact, I recommend, if you have a snake kit in your first aid kit, buy another one of these, because you will need two of these. If you're doing a leg, you want to compress it really tight and one may not be enough, so I recommend having two of these. Anyway, I've got one in my grab bag here because you never know, you may need it, and it's better than not having it. So a snake bite bandage, super, super important. Right, other things I've got in here. I have a torch for the obvious, you want to see at night, and you can also alert people to where you are. I've taken the battery out. Well, the battery's in there, but I've put a piece of cardboard in there between the contact and the battery, so there's no accident of turning it on, and you just remove the cardboard and it's functional. I recommend going through the contents of your grab bag before every single trip. Make sure you've got fresh batteries, make sure you've got these things are in date. Make sure if you take medication regularly and you need that medication, make sure that is in your first aid kit here. And when you get home, make sure you take it out and use it before it goes off. Okay, so other things I have. I've got a little stove here. So there's, I'll actually show you, this is quite a good one. I have here a tiny little gas canister and a little pot, little saucepan that goes on top of it, and there's a stand that goes on top of here with a burner, and you use the lighter that we saw before, and I can now heat water, cook some food, and basically be a little bit more comfortable. So that is important. I've got some rope, useful for all sorts of things. You could use the rope to help prop up the tent, or you could use it for tying things to trees. So if you want to write a piece of cardboard, tie it to a tree to say, "Help, I'm down there," then rope is always handy. I have here a fire striker, so basically a flint and steel. So you can start fire even if it's sopping wet. You've got a whistle on the air for attracting attention, so that is handy to have. I've got some cardboard in here. So once again, I can write on the cardboard. I've got some plastic bags. I can put the cardboard in the plastic bag and then tie it to a tree with tape or the rope, and that way I can make signs for people to come and find me. Now the other thing I have in here is I have some very, very large clear plastic sheets. Now by large I mean about 1.5 meters by 1.5 meters plastic bags. They have to be clear, just like this Ziploc bag is, clear see-through plastic. And what you do with that, you can do many things with it. You can put it on the ground and lie on it or sit on it. You can use it to wrap an arm up if you've bandaged it up and you want to keep it clean and dry. If it's raining, you can wrap it up with your arm. Or the intended purpose of this is I can put it around a green branch of a tree and tie it off nice and tight, and in the sunshine then the evaporation off the leaves will collect on the inside of the plastic bag, and that water will then drip down into one corner of the bag, and over the course of the day you've got some water. So that is a very, very handy thing to have when you're stranded in a remote location. I have here a big plastic tarp. This is heavy duty. I can use it as a ground sheet, I can lie on it, I can use it as a roof above my head, or I can just put it down and use it as a signal to signal people that I'm here and I need help. So that is very handy to have. I've got some tape, I've got a black marker pen. Now that's all I've got in here at the moment, but I have taken a few things out. I didn't mention a knife. I don't have a knife in here. I remember now that I did take a knife out some months ago and I haven't put it back yet. So this is what I mean. It is super important to go through the contents of your grab bag before you head off on a trip and make sure that everything that you might need is in here. Maybe it's a Swiss Army knife or a Leatherman or a hunting knife with a flint. It has to be in here because that could come in handy for all sorts of purposes. So essentially what I want in here is everything that I need to survive. So I need to patch up my wounds if I'm cut or bleeding. I need water, so a way of cleaning the water or finding water. I also normally keep a small 5-litre jerry can of water next to the grab bag, so I can just grab those two things and throw them out of the car as I jump out of the car myself. And that way I've got water, I've got food. Food is the least of your worries, by the way. You can survive for 3 weeks without food, you can survive for 3 days without water, and you might be able to survive 3 minutes if you get an artery cut. So you need to patch yourself up first, and then you need to worry about shelter and water. And then finally, food. So the whole idea, like I said, you stay with your car, you signal for help, and then you survive those few days out of the harsh sun, out of the rain, and wait until help comes. And help will come if you stay with your car. So I just thought I'd give you a quick look at what I've got in my grab bag. Let me know if you have any ideas about what else I could put in here, or if you have a grab bag, put it in the comments. I'd love to hear what you keep in yours. So thank you so much for watching, and as always, like, comment, subscribe, and I shall see you in the next video. Cheerio, guys. I don't want to get bogged or get a flat tire. I'm travelling alone in a very remote part of Australia. The temperature is above 40 degrees and there's no one around for hundreds of kilometres. I am completely alone. I have to be very careful.